Hi there, this is James with ICT. I was given a question this morning that I needed to answer on a video. So, the question was, how many hours have you worked in a week? I guess I need to explain this a little bit first before answering that question. I worked with a contract company for Quest Communications, which is now CenturyLink, which was US West. Anyway, the relevance of this was as a contractor, I needed to go out and take care of lots of POTS, POTS, plain old telephone service. This is where I was providing a lot of the services that the average end user would have in their home. So I'd make sure that the phone lines were working all the way from the beginning to the end, and in their home, all the way to their phone, all the way from the switch in the central office all the way through the F1, F2, and whatever, all the way out to the customer's address and to their phone. Well, this was in Duluth, Minnesota, and there was a particularly bad weather incident with involving ice. Um, at one point, they considered this a natural disaster, although I don't really consider it that much as one. Um, But what I was told was there's this governing body over, government, federal guidelines and body that governs the utilities of these particular companies that would charge X amount of dollars for a customer who is out of service for more than 24 hours. I think that's why they consider this to be a natural disaster, to give them additional time to actually take care of this, because the ice kind of devastated how things work. From the pole, um, in a lot of cases, especially in Duluth, from the pole all the way out to the customer's home, that was called the drop for the plot for the POTS for the plain old telephone service cabling was called the drop, and the drop would end up coming from the pole down to the house and down the house into the house to the protector, and then or Nick or anyway would come down into the protector and then end up going throughout the house and then to the user's phones. Well, that drop was kind of prone to weather, just like everything else outside, and during this ice storm, they got overwhelmed with ice, too heavy to actually carry the ice, and then ripped away from the home and disconnected from the protector. So the customers didn't have any service. Therefore, we needed to go out and repair these. Now, this was a pretty big issue. So, due to the fact that these guidelines were in place, we needed to make sure that we got all these things up and running as quickly as possible. So, to answer that question of how many hours have I worked in a week, that week was 110 hours. Um, and the reason it ended at 110 was because I was pretty exhausted, and there was this midspan that I was working on to repair. And a midspan is you take a 24-foot or a 32-foot ladder that has hooks at the end, and you put this up over the top of the main cable that's going from pole to pole, and you hook it up to that. You walk up the ladder, and then you work on this cabling that's actually in the middle of everything, the splice point or whatever you need to do. And during that time, it was still a little icy, a little snowy, and even though I tied everything up so that I wouldn't slide away, my ladder started to actually separate. The two pieces of the ladder actually started to separate as I was climbing it, and I ended up at the point where I was putting one foot in between two rungs, and as I put the other foot down, I was now standing on top of my foot with the other rung. So I couldn't take my weight off of either of those. And I was kind of stuck at this point because it started to slide. Um, and that's the reason why the ladder started to come apart. and it started to push back together again when I did that with my foot. And there were mechanisms for protection that actually were no longer in place due to the fact that it started to separate and then started to come back down on itself. And I was the only thing preventing it from collapsing. Well, it was lucky enough I wasn't up too high. I was only about 10 feet up at that point in time. Because what ended up happening was I had to jump, bail ship, and hit the snow. Um, Now I came out quite all right. I was quite exhausted. Needless to say, I took the rest of the day off. But to answer that original question, how many hours did you work in a week? 110. It's ridiculous. I don't suggest it. But in that field with being a contractor for pots, you definitely want to take what you can get when it comes to work. Because as a contractor, it only lasts so long. With that, I hope that answered the question. It is a job for some of you, not for all. So keep us in mind for more videos to come. Check out our website, www.ict-iowa.com. Thanks.